Bitcoin-cli. Okay. So if you look at the tabcom 2023 GitHub page, it's issue number 72. We're going to be covering these RPCs. So there's a ton of RPCs, there's a ton of commands for Bitcoin-cli, so we're only going to be covering a subset. And these aren't necessarily, I would say, beginner commands or advanced commands. These are just commands that are, I found interesting that could be logically grouped. The reason why this is a beginner is because you're going to be following along, so it's not like you're going to be left out in the deep end or anything. And yeah, we can get started. So if you see the link right here, you can click download. And this is when I would recommend downloading to your various machine. If you already have it, then great. You don't need to worry about that. Do not use a node. Like if you already have your environment configured for a Bitcoin node, I would not use it. This is just for people that you're not going to be messing up anything. And then I also have this just guide in case you get lost, which is pretty much going to help cover some of the commands that I'm going to be running. Something interesting is after you download the bitcoincore, after you download the application, you might be wondering, like, how do I check the integrity of this application? Actually, I have those, I'll say, pseudo commands as well. There's PGP ways of even doing a little bit better, but there's a process now called Geeks, which replaced something called Gideon, and I used to be a Gideon verifier. So I was verifying the Bitcoin binaries that were being put on bitcoincore.org. Now with the Geeks process, I'm no longer involved, but the idea is you can find people even at this conference. So people like Sorge and Andrew Chow, I know are currently, like here's Sorge, where's Andrew Chow? I don't know, maybe he's not here. Anyways, yeah, right here, HL 101. So you have people even at the conference that are still pretty involved with verifying these binaries, and you can check their signatures. So I'm just saying. The next command in this gist is undoing the tar. I kind of have like this idea. So if once you download it, you can get it through. You can ignore this git clone. This is just to pretty much show you how you can download the git repo. I was making notes for myself. And that's about it. And now Bitcoin, so another thing that's sort of sad is in the Bitcoin GitHub repo, the bitcoin.conf, which we'll use to configure for Regtest, it's now just blank. And I'm just like, oh, that sucks. Because I used to be able to go there and just copy the reference of like whatever the latest, like, oh, version 25 came out, I don't know, I'm just going to copy whatever the reference Bitcoin.conf is. But now that's no longer there. They want you to produce it with like a Python script or something. Okay, and if you look at this link, which is the most important link on this, real quick, if anyone does want to follow along and you don't know how to get to this page, can you just raise your hand? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going. Okay, so let me just backtrack a little bit. The first step was going to the actual GitHub issue. Were you able to find this?
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's a link right here. That link is going to help you follow along. Okay. And we do only have an hour, so I might not be able to. We might not be able to do like super follow along. It might end up being like a pseudo demo, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll do our best. So, anyways, this link right here will get you a Bitcoin conf file that will work really nicely with your Regtest. So. And Lisa's going to stare daggers at me when I say this, but what I want you to do is I want you to run the bitcoincore application as is, which means it's going to attempt to download the entire blockchain, and then I want you to just immediately kill it afterwards. So if you don't download the Bitcoin blockchain, and if you feel like you are downloading the Bitcoin blockchain, raise your hand. Someone next to you can help you. But you're going to want to either open up like activity monitor and kill it, or like in Mac you can just right click quit. Like the idea is you want to like initiate it so it initializes your directories for you, but it doesn't actually download like the blockchain, if that makes sense. So, or connect to peers and stuff like this. So you want to start it, let it run for 1 second, and then 2 seconds, and then kill it. All right, and then if you look at this second link right here on the gist. So if you look here, depending on which operating system you're using, this is the default location. So this would prevent us from having to type in a flag, like a dash conf or whatever. So what I would recommend, just for simplicity of running the command, I would just put the bitcoin.conf file in the default location. And you're like, well, wait, what's the bitcoin.conf file again? And it's this one. It's that other link. So you want to create a file that looks like this in the default location of your computer. And if that makes no sense, this is why we need Replit, right? So, anyways, okay, so because this is actually probably the hardest step of the entire workshop, I'm just going to let this kind of bake in over the next 5 minutes. For people who really want to follow along, I'll let people raise hands, whatever, and I'll just walk along and help people out. So if anyone wants to get set up for the next like half hour, then raise your hand, I'll help you out. Otherwise, okay. Yeah. You on Mac? So you're running so now we're just mixed with. So you're all okay, it's good. So you see how it's orange? We're going to want to make that blue when you spin it up again. You're going to do that by so in Mac you see how you have the home library application support Bitcoin. So you mind if I try it? Go. I don't know why. So you're going to create a file called bitcoin.conf, and then did you open up the GitHub?
Yeah, I need to say. Fast.
Now you're in Regtest.
I already have.
Right. You're not going to connect anyone by default or anything. Hey, I have time to maybe help one more person who really wants to be helped. Otherwise, I would just say, please help your neighbor if they're struggling. Does anyone else want some personalized help before we get started? Okay. And I would actually ask, what operating system are you on?
Mac.
Can someone savvy with Mac and bitcoincore help this gentleman back here? Would someone be able to? Hey, thanks.
I'm not going to finish it this time, but my goal is actually to this all out to me. I'm actually going to try to automate the whole install, like, Mac and
For setting up Regtest?
like basically, no, like downloading the binary automatically, like, checking
Oh, so you're doing like a hackathon project right now?
sorry, but
You're doing like a little mini hackathon.
kind of myself, yeah.
Nice.
So I'll make everything that's all, so that might help you.
Okay, cool. The workshop, this is probably the hardest part of the workshop is being ready for the workshop. So
Yeah.
I imagine 101% of people are learn what they need to do at the workshop at the workshop. So. Okay, you know you're doing well when you have the Bitcoin-core logo up as blue, or if you're using Linux, then you probably already know what you're doing. We'll just be real, hopefully.
I mean, if you're doing it with Regtest, you can download folders on all three platforms and just get it up.
You could do that too. I was just trying to do, the reason for using Bitcoin-core is because then you can go, when you open it up under Regtest, you can go, let's see, console, and then it's just nice.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to clean up my environment so we can do it from scratch. Let's see, now I'm forgetting.
Do you have to be connected to internet for this demo to work?
You need to download the application.
Okay, yeah, we got the app.
No internet after that is required. Yeah. All right, so I'm actually gonna, if you wanted to delete like everything that you're doing in Regtest, the ghetto fabulous way is just doing an RF on Regtest, like everyone does, right? Let me quit it first because I think it's weird to delete something when you're running it. And yeah, so my bitcoin.conf is right here. So I'm deleting Regtest. To let y'all know that's the file, in case you need a last minute look. This is, you shouldn't have to type that out manually. All right, we're gonna get started now. I've deleted my Regtest folder, so I'm starting clean just like you. Okie doke. And it says, yeah, I don't know, some warning, I'm just not even gonna read it. All right, I feel like we have 2 more people. Richard, anyone down there feel like I feel like everyone's having a sandwich down there. Everyone actually looks good down there. Okay.
I mean, I have one on mine. Observe.
Yeah. Just make sure it's not a zebedee node. Okay.
Yeah. Regtest.
Just there. Stu, how's it looking? Okay. All right, so for those who want to follow along, we're going to go for Bitcoin CLI. Just use Bitcoin CLI, like the workshop entails. If you want to use Bitcoin-cli, which I think is easy, just click Windows and Console. Every command in here is like pretty much assumed prefix with Bitcoin CLI, so you don't need to type that out. You can just start typing the RPCs. The other cool part about the console is it has like completion. If you start typing something in, it can kind of give you suggestions on what starts with those letters. And the whole idea is we're gonna want to set up ultimately 3 wallets. So we're gonna have Alice, Bob, and Carol. So we're going to create wallets for all 3 of these people, and we're going to treat those as individual entities. We're going to have Alice be the miner of this network. So every time a block gets mined, we're just going to go ahead and send it over to Alice, right? We're going to have Bob be some merchant that sells something, and then we're going to have Carol be the recipient of like a neat transaction that we construct that's a little bit more, not necessarily raw, but pseudo-raw, given the RPCs. So that's the workshop. It can be as complicated as you want, but we're just gonna chuck through it. So you might be wondering, like, okay, how do I create a wallet? Now, obviously through Bitcoin-cli, you can click the create button, but we're using the CLI. So I do apologize. The font at the bottom left, I realize is very tiny. Just remember that all this stuff, if you're starting to get lost, is in the gist. So I'm going to create, and then and by the way, after I hit enter on a command, it will pop up to the larger text above.
Just do that scammers tell them to type commands. When you scan
We'll leave questions for that if we have time. Yeah, but that's funny. I actually have never read that red text, which is actually hilarious. Oh man. Okay. Lisa, have you read this red text before?
No.
Warning: scammers have been active telling users to type commands here. So, am I scamming right now? It's on Regtest too. I want to steal your Regtest points. This is 25. This is the latest stable, or 26, whatever the latest stable is on bitcoincore.org. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I think I've just always ignored this red text. That's so funny. If you take anything out of this workshop, it's this. A little bit of Bitcoin trivia here. Okay. So we're going to create some wallets. So I'm going to go ahead and create a wallet for Alice. And if you see in the green text up there, that's actually my command that I run. So if you can't see at the bottom left, you can see what I'm typing above if you start losing me. So I just created a wallet for Alice, and now it's like, okay, what can I do? I can list wallets. Okay, list wallets. Okay, I'm not even reading the response here. Okay, so if you list wallets, there's no wallets because create Alice is not a real command. So I'm going to create, if I can type, I'm creating wallet Alice, now it's executing. Okay, now we have a wallet named Alice. So now if I do a list wallets command, I see Alice is a wallet and my wallets array. Okay. One thing I will be doing quite a bit is I might be unloading and loading in wallets depending on who I want to work with. The reason for that is because I just want to make it less confusing. When you have more than one wallet loaded at the same time and you're trying to do various things, you sometimes, it gets a little bit confusing. You actually have to specify which wallet it's using, and also this will have a default option. And anyway, so you'll see me unloading wallets and loading wallets here to make sure I'm working in the right context. So Alice, now we're like in an empty blockchain, right? So how many, like if we had to run like what the blockchain looks like, what do you think the current block type would be at? If anyone wants to take a guess.
800,000 cells?
In this like brand new Regtest environment. So we have some people guessing the block height will be 0.
0, 1.
So one thing we can do, it's like, well, how do we even know what the block height is? We can run help. And here's all the help commands. So if you ever want to see all the commands, at the very top are all the blockchain commands. So we can say get blockchain. I wonder if that will. So blocks 0 headers. So I guess even with Regtest, you get a default first block even without mining it. Yeah, you can't mine the Genesis block. What was that?
The Genesis block doesn't count as a block in all counts. So get block count is always minus the Genesis block. Block sphere is always minus the Genesis.
Yes. Agreed. Alright, so the Genesis block is with us, even in Regtest forever.
However, just so you know, if you run get blockchain info, it says block the number of blocks that have been mined is 0. So there's 0 blocks, but there is a Genesis block, but that's also not quite block 0. Yes.
Nice. Yes. Correct. I disagree with nothing that's being said right now. I also want everyone in the audience to know half of you all are smarter than me, and then the other half are probably as dumb as me. All right, so we're going to go ahead and mine some blocks. So the way, honestly, I kind of forgot how to mine blocks. I want to look back at my
Generate to address.
There is, oh, I know, generate to address.
Or if you're using Bitcoin-cli, dash generate.
Right, and if you're using Bitcoin-cli, I was used to the dash generate, didn't actually know the generate to address was an option. So that is cool for people who are using Qt. If you're not using Bitcoin-cli, like the actual CLI, you have to use generate to address. If you're using Bitcoin-cli, you can use dash generate. But you know, your mileage may vary. I'm not going to cover that. So we're gonna generate 150 blocks to. Well, first we need a wallet to send it to. So before we run this command, we're going to get an address from Alice. So Alice has a wallet, and now it's like, okay, you can create an address of which type, and you can give it a label. So when you say get new address, the first argument is going to be a label, and I'm just going to call this minor wallet, and then vetch32m is going to be essentially seglet v1, which is like taproot. So we're going to be using the cool new stuff, although it doesn't really necessarily matter in this case. So hit enter, we get this big old long address, and now we can do the generate to address, and I'm going to go ahead and mine 150 blocks. Where's Andrew Chow? I wanted to see if he knew some trivia. He left when some real stuff is going on. How convenient. Okay, so I just mined 150 blocks. So if we do a get blockchain info again, you can see, hey, 150 blocks. We're doing it, guys. Okay, and if we do list unspents, like the UTXOs, you can see like, hey, all these 50 blocks, you know, because when Bitcoin first came out, you get 50 blocks per Coinbase per block. And then we can also see get balance. So we mined 150 blocks, which is 50 Bitcoin apiece, which should be 7,500 Bitcoin. So I guess my question to the audience is, why do we only see 2,500 Bitcoin when we run get balance? Does anyone want to take a guess? Besides Hunter. No, I was kidding.
Well,
go for it.
You need at least 101 blocks to be able to spend, because basically, Bitcoin will lock up your earnings when you mine blocks for 100 blocks. And that's to help against, that's like a game theoretic thing where, like, if somebody's like going to attack the chain,
let's just pause that for a second. The short answer is you're going to wait 100 blocks to be able to spend a Coinbase. So as soon as the Coinbase comes, you can't actually spend it for 100 blocks. Sorry not to cut you off. It's just it was becoming better than my workshop. I can't have that. Sorry about that, Hunter. All right, and then if you get a little bit more information if you run get balances, like plural. Now, here's the thing that I wish Andrew Chow was in here for that I want to see if you know. So here's the real question I have. If we mined 150 blocks and we have 2,500 Bitcoin that are trusted, why is the immature 4975? And why is it not like round numbers of 50? Now, this is the question. I want everyone to go to the Bitcoin-core table and be like, hey, Andrew Chow, Mr. I know everything because my name's AChow101. I'm just kidding. Don't actually do that. But do that. Does anyone want to take a guess on why this is happening? And I call Lisa. I call Portland.
I don't know.
So this is actually really interesting, which I found out preparing for this workshop. After the block halvings on Regtest are every 150 blocks.
Oh.
Which I only found out preparing for this workshop. I've always sort of like not understood why like I mine 1,000 blocks, why like the Coinbase is now like 3.125 Bitcoin. I just like kind of ignore it. I'm like, yeah, whatever, Regtest. But the actual reason is because halvings are every 150 blocks instead of the 210,000 like on normal mainnet or signet and testnet. All right. So, anyways, just a little bit of trivia. You can. I feel like that should be part of some trivia somewhere. I don't know. Make it happen. All right. I'm going back to my gist just to keep track. Okay. So we're gonna now say, okay, so now Alice has 2,500 Bitcoin to spend. We're gonna go ahead and create Bob's wallet now, the merchant. So create wallet, Bob, and remember, the idea here is if you start getting savvy enough with bitcoincore, bitcoin.cli, like you can manage your own funds this way. This is just like us playfully just poking around and seeing how this stuff works in Regtest, where we don't have real Bitcoin to worry about. So we're creating Bob, and now if we list wallets, we have Alice and Bob. So we have one like brand new wallet, the Bob. So like let's say we taking a step back into reality. Like let's say I want to really heavily partition my funds into like my personal account, my work account, and my family share, whatever. I'm just saying like you can. I'm treating these as individual people, but you know. The idea is you can have multiple wallets for yourself. So we have two wallets loaded. So if I run a command now, the idea is it's going to Bitcoin core is going to decide which wallet it thinks I'm trying to use, and instead of me, or it'll give me an error. It depends. Bitcoin-cli is way more picky. You have to do a RPC wallet flag if you're using Bitcoin-cli. But for Bitcoin-cli and Qt, I'm just going to show you my method, which is we just unload the wallet that we're not interested in. So we'll just simply unload wallet, Alice. Now if we list wallet, now we just have Bob. And Bob, like I said, is a merchant. So let's go ahead and Bob, what does Bob want to sell? Give me something.
Airplanes.
Airplanes. Jeez, okay. How much does an airplane cost?
One Bitcoin.
$1 Bitcoin. You said $1 million?
30.
Is it, well, Alice has 2,500 Bitcoin to spend, is that enough?
Maybe it's smaller.
Okay, like a, okay, anyways.
75,000, you get an airplane for 25 Bitcoin.
All right. So, we're going to get a new address, and the label here is going to be airplane. And if you notice, I didn't, when I generated this address, I did not type in a address type, so it just uses the default. And if you look at the difference, so the difference between the default and that longer one is the longer one was the Besh32 film. And the one that's default is pay to witness pub key. Someone can verify that claim, but this is like pay to witness pub key. and hash, and then the one below is like more taprooty, Besh 32. I don't know much else behind the science of that. I just know this one's longer. So uncompressed. I don't know. That's a word, right? Okay. Okay. So now Bob has an address for airplane. So the cool part, when we generate this address, we gave it a label, so we can always use these labels like to look up stuff specifically. Like it's like nice things. So now it's like, okay, Alice wants to buy that airplane. We're going to unload wallet Bob, load wallet Alice, and then we're going to buy that airplane because now we know Bob's address right here. So we're going to send to address, and this is the simplest way to send Bitcoin through like a command. It's just the send to address command. And if you just type it in without any parameters, you'll get the help text. So the cool part, most of the commands, if you type in help or like dash help, or if you just type in the command itself with no arguments, you'll get like the actual help text that comes with it. And when I was reviewing one of these commands for the partially signed Bitcoin transactions, I actually noticed there was some confusing text, and I got a PR merged in Bitcoin like a week or two ago. So that was kind of cool. This workshop was just me shielding that I'm now a bitcoincore contributor. So there you go. Okay. So anyways, send to address is the simplest way to send Bitcoin. Like it takes a lot of heavy lifting. Like you don't really need to think about much. And now you obviously have, if you want to do something, where you care about like certain UTXOs or how UTXOs are ordered, you don't want to use this, command. But most of the time, people don't care about that at all, right? So it doesn't matter. Or they'll just say like, whatever, just But if you really focus on like potentially like privacy or mixing or whatever, and you want to really manage it yourself, that's when you can do some cool stuff. Otherwise, you can just let bitcoincore do its thing. So send to address is like letting bitcoincore do its thing. All right. And I'm just doing a sanity check. And so scrolling up to Bob's address for airplane. And then we said the airplane was how many Bitcoin? 20 Bitcoin. Just 20 even. Perfect. Maybe 23. 23. I feel like this is like the worst meme number ever, but we'll do it. Okay, so we got the transaction hash ID. So the transaction was sent, and then it output the TX ID, the transaction hash ID. So this is something you can typically take if you see one of these. You can take this to like blockchain.info or some blockchain explorer. You can like look up the transactions. This is like how transactions are essentially uniquely identified on Bitcoin. And the transactions are going to have like your inputs and outputs associated with them and stuff like that. Okay, so if we list the transactions. So here's me listing the transactions for Alice, and obviously there's a lot, but this one right here shows negative 23 amount, and this is when she sent the 23 Bitcoin. If we unload Alice, so unload wallet Alice, load wallet, do a list. Transactions, we can see Bob only has one transaction, and he has the 23 received. If we do get balance, we see that he has 0. And if your name's not Hunter, why is Bob's balance 0? Even though yeah, it's pretty easy. Yeah, so the reason why the transaction is listed, but it's not there yet, is typically Bitcoin. The idea is you wait for confirmations. I know historically the idea was like you wait for 6 confirmations. I don't know what Bitcoin Bitcoin-core's default is set to now. Can someone maybe tell me? Is it still 6 or is it 3? I don't know. But you're like, okay, if we want this balance now to show up, we know Alice is our miner, and if we stay consistent, we'll just go back to Alice, so to mine some blocks. So unload wallet Bob, load wallet Alice, and then let's do some mining. So I'm just hitting up arrow a bunch, and I'm gonna mine all these Bitcoin to the same exact address again, which, you know, whatever, doesn't matter. So I'm mining another 150 blocks to Alice, same address. So now Alice is super rich. Everyone's envy, has envy. $8,700 Bitcoin. I'm going back to Bob now. So now, if we run get balance, who wants to take a guess on what his balance will be? Too many, not everyone at once, please. 23, there you go. And that's because we mined a bunch of blocks, they're confirmed now. We could have mined just like a few, but we mined 150, so that's like overkill. So Bob has 23 Bitcoin. What else does Bob sell besides airplanes? Boats. I like that.
Parts for airplanes, oil,
Facilities.
Pilots.
services, pilot services.
It's like we're starting an AV company. I like boats. It's a little bit different. Okay, so next thing that Bob's selling is boats. How are we doing on time? Okay, we have plenty of time. So we're going to get an address for boats. That's my wife. And busy. I'm just kidding. That didn't work. Wait, give me a second.
I'm not busy.
Okay, so we got a new address for boat, and we're gonna. Should we make this a? I think the goal was to make this different than the first one. The first one was a pay to witness key hash. I think the idea here was to maybe use more of a Taproot-y kind of thing.
Legacy.
Or legacy. We could do legacy. That would be fun. Legacy's fun.
Let's make sure we solve that mistake with sponsors to say.
So what's another thing? Because I already used the label boats, and I don't want to figure out how to get rid of that. What's another besides boats?
Submarines.
Subs, either food or submarines. Okay, and then we'll type in legacy. There you go. So legacy addresses, if you do this on mainnet, you'll see it'll start with the number 1. Here it'll start with the letter lowercase m. Or yeah, that's true. Yeah, mainnet is always the 1 though. Yeah, because close enough on the bit range or whatever, the bleed into the ends as well. It's very much needed for legacy Regtest. I was maybe it is. I was just kind
There's
of.
actually a genuine use for determining frequencies, so you can determine user inputs and address the total.
All right. Anywho, so we got our legacy address because the audience was just dying for a legacy address. Nostalgia is hitting this workshop heavy, and we're selling subs. So back to Alice. And we're going to another simple send to address. We'll do the legacy. And how much does a submarine cost? A couple Bitcoin? That's the Russian.
1,307.
We'll do 100 Bitcoin. Okay. So now, and then we'll go ahead and we'll just mine some blocks because we know that's like how Bitcoin works. So this should be in Bob's balance. Okay, so Bob has the Bitcoin for the subs, which was, what did we say, 100 Bitcoin. He's got 23 Bitcoin for the airplane. Like he's feeling pretty good, right? You can get balance. He's got 123 Bitcoin. We can list transactions. He's got the 2 transactions here. One for airplane because he labeled it, and then one for subs. Okay, so now Bob is going to make we'll call it like a neat transaction, and send it to Carol. And this is going to be, pretty much the end of the workshop, just showing you how you can, you have a little bit, even with Bitcoin CLI, it has a lot of safeguards. You can still do a lot of cool stuff without getting into the raw transaction RPCs with the partially signed Bitcoin transactions. And the partially signed Bitcoin transactions are sort of, I would say, becoming the standard based on my conversations with core contributors on the Bitcoin Stack Exchange and GitHub and in person. So I'm going to be covering sort of like what seems to be like the best way of still doing Bitcoin transactions with a lot of flexibility, but having like those safeguards kind of stuff. Okay. So we're going to create wallet Carol. And we're going to generate an address for Carol. So remove wallet Bob, get address. Does anyone have a preference here? Dealers, attendees pick, legacy, pay2, public key hash. Pay2 script hashtag, no, that one's lame. No one wants that. Actually, I don't even know. I don't know, that would just look like a pay2 script hash, wouldn't it? On this, I don't know. Like wrap segwit?
It's a P2SH hash segwit.
Can we just forget that those ever existed? Those just were always weird, right? The rep segment stuff was always like looking back now it's weird. I feel like it wasn't weird at the time, obviously. That's like when everyone learned about data script hash. Okay, we're just going to do the default because no one convinced me otherwise.
Get new address.
Thank you. Look at that. It's testing you all. So this is Carol's receive address. So let's go ahead and load Bob back. Okay, so the idea here is we're going to do something where we're going to send more than 100 Bitcoin to Carol, but less than like 123. We're not going to send all of it, and we're going to see like how changes send and stuff like that. So we'll send 105 or something. We'll send 105 Bitcoin to Carol, just so they have to break both of these UTXOs, and we're going to go through that using partially signed Bitcoin transactions. So the way the partially signed Bitcoin transaction works is like you kind of construct it, and you sign it. Well, this is how pretty much every Bitcoin transaction works. This isn't unique, but I guess what I'm trying to say is partially signed Bitcoin transactions can do a lot of stuff, including, I guess you can say, like non-multi-sig like transactions. It's just the idea is it's like a more formalized way to break up a transaction, including multi-sig type stuff. So, anyways, it's like more universal. I feel like. Anyway, where if we're talking about partially signed Bitcoin transactions in the past, I would have always assumed you just meant multi-sig. Now it's like I feel like it's for like everything. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna copy and paste this as like a template. This is going to be the string of text that acts as the argument. And you can see this first one takes in a transaction ID, and then a V out. And then the second one takes in a transaction ID of the second UTXO, and then a V out, so the index of which. And then the receive address with the amount that we're sending. So what we need are two transaction IDs, and we need their V outs. So we need like the index in that transaction where they exist. So a transaction will have multiple outputs. We need a transaction will have multiple outputs. This UTXO corresponds to one of those. We need to specify which output index we're referring to. And I'll show you what that looks like. So we're going to go back to Bob here. List unspent. So for listing the unspent, we have our two UTXOs, right? They're comma delimited right here. And here's our transaction ID 1, so we're going to go ahead and grab it. I'm going back to like my notepad. And put it right here. And if you notice the backslashes are because just like it's because they're strings. I'm just like escaping the characters. And then let's figure out what the index is. So the V out is index 0. So this would need to be changed to 0. And then we'll grab the second transaction. And then this one's also index 0. The reason why an index could be like 1, 2, 3, 100 is because if you've seen like on block explorers where you have, I don't know, something where many people are recipients of Bitcoin, like you have like one Bitcoin means it's like 80 people or like coin joins or like whatever, where you have like all this kind of crazy stuff going on. People know what I'm talking about when you look at block explorers, you see all like the inputs and outputs. The idea here is a lot of times for very simple transactions, one input will be the change address and one input will actually be the destination that you're sending to. One is pretty much coming back. And if you're doing one of these really simple transactions, your wallet should want to randomize which index is your change address and which index is the actual recipient's address, so there isn't a clear pattern. And this is sort of, the idea where I just kind of got lucky that both of these indexes are 0, so it's just a coincidence. So, if you have really complicated transactions, you can see like index, whatever, 50 or something, and you have to actually, know these things. So these numbers can get quite large. All right. All right, we are going to grab the Carol's receive address. And we said we're going to send 105 Bitcoin. And let's go ahead and send this through. That's not going to work. Let's get the actual command. So it's going to be wallet create fund PSBT. Okay, and the output here that we're interested in, just for sake of time, I'm just going to run through this. I'm going to just grab the string that is of interest here. I'm I'm going to keep it on my notepad. The next command that we're interested in, if we want to decode it, we can look at that. I want to skip that process as it's just like a way to like look into it. I'll let you run on your own. But we need to process the PBS or the partially signed Bitcoin transaction. So we need to actually process this now. And all these commands, like when you do process, when you do create fund, like if something's going wrong with ideas, you can decode it and you can see like, hey, that's not actually what I want to do. Like, so you can actually like audit these things before you broadcast them out. So it says complete true. Grabbing this again. And so now that we've processed it, we can analyze it if we want. But I think let's just keep going because I know it will work. So finalize. So finalize is like your signing and whatnot with your private keys. So this would be a situation where if we had the wrong wallet loaded, you should actually get an error here. So if you wanted to like test this and like be like, hey, I'm going to like unload Bob's wallet and load in Alice's wallet, and you want to like sign for this, like you would actually like fail something like this stuff. Okay, so now we have the hex, and the cool part when you get like the raw hex like this, a raw transaction that's ready to be broadcast, you can like send like for mainnet, if you create one of these, you can go to like there's like a bunch of websites that will broadcast this for you. You can broadcast this yourself. This is Bitcoin that hasn't been deployed yet. You can send this to miners. You can send this to whoever. There's websites that will broadcast this. Obviously, wallets broadcast it for you. Yeah, your node will broadcast it for you. Or any node can broadcast it. It doesn't have to be your node. Is all I'm trying to get at. So you can grab this hex. And I think the cool part, the only part I will do is we'll decode the raw hex. Because this is pretty much as final as it gets. And what we see here is what the TXID would be, version, all this, the TXIDs that we're specifying, and then the V outs, or the VNs, I think are interesting. So VIN, you have the inputs, you have your outputs, and you can see like the exact index and stuff here. We're done. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm wrapping up. Yeah, so when this gets broadcast, here's my last question. Which one's going to be the change address? Is it going to be V0 or V1? If it's V0, raise your hand. If it's V1, raise your hand. All right, no one knows. All right. So we're sending 105 Bitcoin. So this is index 1. This is like the second output. So it's obvious that the 17.99 Bitcoin, that's going to be the change that we're giving back to ourselves. So that wasn't clear then. Anyways, so let's go ahead and just put a bow on it, and we'll go ahead and broadcast into our fake Regtest network. And here's the transaction ID to look up on our fake block explorer later. Okay, no, that's it. I mean, you can take this as far as you want. Thank you.